Hello, everybody. This is Errol Rappaport, and I want to welcome all of you to our new show, Rappaport in Residence. I have the honor and pleasure to be hosting this series of interviews highlighting the amazing talent on every level to create this stream of passion. I want you to join us for the first annual music and full moon celebration on Bannerman Island with the Daisy Jopling Band featuring Michael Fagenbaum, Sal Lagonia, and the local youth. This is a fundraiser for the Bannerman Castle Trust and the Daisy Jopling Music Mentorship Foundation. The money raised will be used to preserve the island and to provide free music lessons and mentoring for over 94 students aged 7 to 18 years old. Now, before we start, I want you to see this video that shows what's happening on the island. Now, you all saw Daisy in the video. Daisy Jopling is an internationally renowned classical rock violinist and has performed in many of the major festivals and concert halls throughout the world, including Carnegie Hall and the Lincoln Center in New York and the Edinburgh International Festival in Scotland. Now, let me tell you how I first met Daisy. I went to perform a fundraiser for the Actors Fund hosted by Jamie DeRoy in New York City. Well, Jamie had all these wonderful Broadway stage actors and actresses singing the most beautiful songs in the world. And all of a sudden, out comes little Daisy with a violin, and she started performing, and she was so mesmerizing and dynamic, and you just couldn't take your eyes off of her. She just fiddled around that stage and just kept playing, and it was just wonderful. So then I found out that she was playing up in Peekskill, and I came up to Peekskill and watched her play with her band and with her chorus, with everything. And I'm now a believer, and I am a proud board member and facilitator of the Daisy Jopling Music Mentoring Foundation. Okay, I want to tell you about the program that we're doing. This is an exclusive, intimate, and safe experience. Only 40 audience members are allowed per show, and New York State health guidelines will be adhered to every step of the way. Under a full harvest moon, you will enjoy an intimate performance by Daisy Jopling Band, which will be opened by talented youth on different stages all around the island, with a backdrop of the majestic Bannerman Castle, as you saw in the video. And it's going to be illuminated by one of the world's greatest lighting designers, Deke Hazirjian, who I'm going to be interviewing a little later. You will be treated to a VIP reception and a tour of the island, including its beautiful gardens, hosted by a Bannerman Trust historian. Now, this show, at least 50 students will be mentored in the creation of this show. It's so wonderful. And they'll be mentored in areas of stage management, marketing, lighting design, sound engineering, moonlight photography, drawing, body percussion, dance choreography, and musical performance. The Daisy Jopling Band concert will consist of original violin arrangements by The Who, among other modern and accessible pieces, blending traditional orchestral music aesthetics with a wide array of contemporary musical styles. I guarantee it will blow your socks off. And then the grand finale will be this incredible lighting show conceived and designed by Deke Hazirjian, who I'm going to interview right now. But before that, remember, this is a limited engagement from September 30th to October 4th. Buy your tickets now. Now, here is my guest, Deke Hazirjian. Now, Deke, I would like you to, it's such an honor and delight to interview you, Deke, because I've seen your work, I've seen what you do, and I know how wonderful and passionate you are. And now I have to hit the speaker here. Bum, bum, bum. Okay, there we go. Now, Deke.
Hello. You got me?
Hi, you there?
Hello. Good morning. Yeah.
Good morning. Okay. Now, Deke, would you start off and tell us about your world of lighting? I mean, how did you go from a soccer scholarship to theater design? And tell us about, what you've been doing and the passion and everything else.
Sure. I really had no idea what it is I wanted to do when I was going to college. And even in high school, I was still kind of floundering. I was a sports geek, and that was all great, but I wasn't sure what my direction was. My dad wanted he wanted me to be a dentist, and I was thinking, I don't think that's going to work out for me. So I explored a lot of majors, went to I was a classic 10-year student, traveled to Africa, traveled to Europe, took jobs all over the place. And frankly, that was half of my education, trying to figure out who I was and what it was I was passionate about. And what I realized was that I needed to do something creative in my life. And I wasn't sure what that was. I was a sculptor, I was a potter. I tried it all. And I at one point thought, I think I'll be an architect. I'm fascinated by architecture. And in that process, discovered set design for theater. It was like architecture, but you didn't have to live with the buildings for 50 years. And that's kind of how I got into the theatrical world. I sort of stumbled upon it. And lucky I did. And when you study theater, you typically study set design, costume design, and lighting design. That's the technical theater bend. And through that, you learn all the disciplines, and most important, you really learn about production. It's all about getting that production up. It's not about you. It's not about your ego. It's not about your problems. It's about making that production the best thing you can do. And it's such a group effort that you get us. Anybody that has not lived that, has never mounted a production, they don't understand what that is. And it's a wonderful.
That was my next question. How do you go from, theory to reality?
You have to live it, and you stumble. I mean, there's no other way. It's funny, when I was in college, I was also interested in camera and TV. And back then, the arts, the theater department, they weren't too keen on theater folks playing with electronics, with cameras, which is kind of odd, right? You think about it now. In fact, everybody's cell phone camera today is better than any of the cameras we had professionally back in the day. I mean, and now everybody shoots. It's not even a question of, are you going to shoot something? Everybody's shooting with cameras all the time. So that the idea of coming from theater, going into television, which is what I did. I worked theater for a handful of years, worked for Burt Reynolds in Florida, but then I got into ABC, and that was my postgraduate work, where I worked on Good Morning America, 2020, Kids Are People Too, Who Wants to Be a Millionaire, you name it. I did, the whole gamut, all the soap operas, Ryan's Hope, All My Children, One Life to Live. Those were all that training, all those, all the techniques, watching, like you said, the older guys. When I started, I was, late 20s, early 30s. All the lighting guys back then were the 50-year-olds, were the men who started the TV industry right after the war. So they'd look at me and go, "You're a lighting guy? You're way too young to be a lighting guy." And it was because I was just beginning. And so they were my mentors. These were the guys that could tell me, they remember doing live television, live commercials. I mean, they had to think on their feet, and they were typically all trained in theater. It wasn't until later on in the industry that some film people came across, and then electronic media became its own thing.
Okay, well, I have another question on that. A lot of actors say you have to follow the lighting. You have to, the lighting is the most important for an actor on stage and on screen. How does that apply to?
Well, you know, with you know, as we bump into each other when we're on a set somewhere, and you know, the audio guys are setting up, and scenery's setting up, and lighting's setting up, we always turn to them and go, "Without us, it's radio."
Right, of course.
Yes. So, but you know, to me, it's always I've always been very visually conscious, and I mean that's the part of what I do. I've always, and I guess maybe coming from you know, sculpting and potting, I've always had a sense of angle. I knew I could look at a blank piece of paper and I could see the vision of what I was trying to attempt. So I don't know whether you know, I was lucky I found the thing that I did well. I mean, maybe that was it. I actually started out as a set designer thinking that's really what I wanted to do because it was more like architecture.
Well,
But it was painting with light that intrigued me. It's what you do with light that renders what you look at. And that's the part that I found, you know, just mesmerizing. And that's really where I got my passion.
Wow. So now I'm going to lead us into, tell us about the project on Bannerman Island now that is so inspiring to you, and what are your plans, and what can we look forward to? And
Well,
when you originally, I saw something you originally did, and you did it in June of 1998. Okay, and now you're doing this at the end of September during a full moon. Does that affect the challenges of the lighting and, you know, what you're doing? Sure
it does. Well, in '98, I was asked by the Bannerman's Trust and the Riverfest folks if I could light the castle as the opening of the Riverfest of that year. It was the first year they had it. And they thought I was just going to put a couple of white lights on it, some spotlights on it, call it a day. Well, I called in all kinds of favors, and we dragged tons of equipment out there. And back then, the equipment was a lot bigger, a lot heavier, needed a lot more power. And you know, we lit, and there was a lot more of the castle then, right? There's a bunch of the castle fell since then. So we essentially put together our own program. I put together getting a musician out there, a bagpiper, putting him on scaffolding. We actually even went to the local radio stations and the local colleges, and they did a simulcast. It was all seat of the pants. But it was a huge amount of work. The island at that point was less developed, meaning cleaned up. You know, poison ivy everywhere. You had to, you know, kind of bushwhack your way to get to the buildings. But it was a fascinating experience, and it's, you know, it's on YouTube now. We finally put it on YouTube. You can see that illumination. A lot of fun. What I didn't realize, and now I do going into it the second time or third, is that it's like it's an expedition. When everything you need has to go out there with you. We're in the process now of pre-planning every phase of this operation, having the right equipment, the right kind of cable, you know, all the pieces and parts, because when we load the barge at White's Marina and sail it down the river and unload everything by hand, because there's no other way to do it. I mean, because there's no equipment. We've got, and then the generator is going to be craned on the barge. That'll be brought around the east side of the river, tethered off. That's where we get all our power from. I understand, because I've lit the castle before, what the lighting of the architecture of the castle is, because I've done it, and it's going to be very different this time, that aspect, because I think it's going to be a lot more subtle. And I say that is a full moon, and the moon is part of what we're doing. We're out on this desolate island in the middle of the Hudson, and a full moon, and that to me is the inspiration of the architecture. We'll have a bagpiper. It's going to be a wondrous thing to be on that island, to have essentially bringing life back into that building with color and movement, with the bagpiper playing underneath. It's going to be magic, and the full moon out. It really is going to be a magic moment. But what's an added treat is lighting Daisy and the band at the residence. Now the residence wasn't. It was still rubble when we were there years ago. They've now reconstructed it. I mean, it's a whole. So there's more architecture now. That's going to be essentially our set for Daisy and the guys, and the gardens behind her, all the terracing. It's going to be a beautiful. And this is on top of the residence is on top of the island. We're right on the top. It's going to be wonderful to be able to light Daisy and the band, light the residence, right? Make music. Make music. I mean, that in and of itself is a gift. So from that, then back down to the castle, and then the boat and the boat ride home, seeing it all illuminated. It's going to be once in a lifetime. Right. Exactly. It really is. Exactly. Yeah, this stuff doesn't come around often. And I don't know, I mean, we're hoping we could make this an annual, let's hope we can. Yeah, it certainly won't be from lack of trying.
Let me ask you another question as I'm thinking. Do you hear, when you're doing all the lighting and everything, do you sort of hear music in your head? Do you sort of...
Well, yeah, it depends on what I'm doing. In this case, absolutely, because there is, the music is a good part of what we're doing. So that the whole tenor, the whole, and the movement, because what I'm using in terms of instrumentation now that I didn't have back then when I did it before is all the new LED fixturing. LEDs now, as everybody knows, is the new technology, and that affords us color ranges and options we didn't have in the past. There's a lot more movement, patterning that we can apply. It requires a lot less energy, so that's a little easier in terms of distribution. So it's a whole new palette we're going to be working with, and absolutely whether it's the music that Daisy is going to perform, or the music that the students and the music that we'll hear from the bagpiper at the castle, all of that sensibility and timing, all of that comes from the music. So absolutely, that's an integral part of what we do.
And you're also going to have a dance performance.
Yeah. It really is a quite well-rounded. Daisy's put together an incredible show.
It's wonderful. So I now want to ask you another question. What advice would you give to anybody that wants to be successful, make a career out of lighting design, theater design, or to go into it now in today's world? With Broadway right now is giving us challenges with not being open, and that's why I believe this event here is going to be incredible, because I think we're going to be out of tickets soon, and we'll start streaming it.
Yeah,
and that would be great. I mean, that's a whole new media now, is streaming and this and streaming that. It's sort of changing. You're able to get out to more places in the world. So, what advice would you give?
Well, to begin with, if you have an interest in being in the creative arts in any capacity, you've got to follow your passion. It's not about getting a job. Yeah, you have to survive, but in the beginning, it's about following your passion, and that will lead you to a path. There are no paths. Everybody makes their own. And with the technology changing the way it's changing, with the availability of all the cameras and the internet, all of that, there are paths I can't even tell you to take. You'll figure them out when you get on, when you start to do it. There's really, I said at the beginning of this interview, the cameras in your phone are as good as anything I've worked with my entire career. So you've got a tool to work with there already. I mean, the most important tool frankly, is going to be your eyes and your soul, your sensibility. That is what you really need to work with. That and again, I think you need to follow what your interests are. Why? Because it won't be work. It's not work when you do that. And then it's like, 12 hours later, it's like, why are you still here? It's like, because I love this. That's why I'm here. And that, so, and it really doesn't matter where you are sort of in the pecking order of things. I want to be a choreographer. I want to be a lighting guy. You don't need to define what it is you think you want to be. You just need to get into it, get into the business, get into the on any level, and then you swim and you find your way. Don't worry about that, the rest of it. The rest will come. You just got to get in, get there, be passionate, work hard, and you're good to go.
Meg, that was so inspiring. My father used to say, work is work, only work. Right?
Wise man, yeah.
Well, geez, that was just amazing, Deke. And now, remember, everybody, this is a once-in-a-lifetime engagement. It's a limited engagement. It's from September 30th to October 4th. Tickets are going fast, and every ticket you buy will benefit the Bannerman Castle Trust and the Daisy Jopling Music Mentorship Foundation. And Deke, I want to thank you for that great interview. You'll see on the screen where to buy tickets. It's going to come up on the screen. I want to dedicate this amazing podcast series to Joe Brown, who was the start of this with Daisy and her late husband. And I want to thank you all. I'll see you next week. And I want to leave you with this very special thought. May you always have a dream of passion. God bless. Thank you, Deke.
Thank you, Earl. Bye, everybody.
Bye.